Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. You're here with me. We're here every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've been doing this since January of 2000. That's almost 17 years. And I don't think we've missed very many Sunday nights, unless I was on vacation. This is September 25th. We're winding down the end of September. We're going to be looking at a number of issues, the cultural shift and biblical values that are in play here. We'll look at the riots in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're going to look at something someone has characterized as the beauty of America that's dying. There are some new TV programs coming this fall. They've probably already begun. I'm going to tell you about 3 of them. All 3 are programs you don't need to be watching, but they are instructive relative to the culture and where we're going. We've got some religious persecution to talk about. I'll give you a hint. It's against Christianity. Surprise, surprise. And then I just wonder if you are overly committed to the Bible, to the Word of God. We've got some folks now who are saying that that's the problem in the church, that we are overly committed to the Word of God. It's an amazing statement. The Bible, in its prophetic word, talks about end-time scenarios in terms of knowledge increasing. The Bible actually says, in the end of days, at the end of this era, knowledge shall increase. And so we'll look at a little bit of what that means tonight. Rioting is once again in the headlines in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in Seattle, Washington. I believe another one just took place today or yesterday, and I'm racking my brain trying to figure out where it was. I can't remember. But the one that rose to our corporate visage was the one in Charlotte, North Carolina. What's going on here? What we're expected to believe is that there is a beleaguered and abused segment of our society, and that segment is once again speaking out against American apartheid. The idea here is that people of color are being routinely and systematically denied access to the American dream for no reason other than the color of their skin. Now, the facts tend to run across the grain. Facts are pesky little things. The vast majority, 80% or more, of Americans want nothing more than to live in a world where this is not demonstrably true. Generally, Americans don't like this and don't want it to happen. Fact, the black community has been decimated by the liberal agenda and by their own selfism, drugs, sex, alcohol, crime. Fact, the black community abandoned the family structure in favor of wealth. More children, more wealth. A husband, a wife in the home, not as much money as there would be if it were just a mother in a single parent environment. And they did this also in favor of greater personal freedom, both of which are false and destructive ideas built into the welfare and the great society schemes. Our case in point is the black man in Charlotte, North Carolina, shot down in cold blood by white police officers for refusing a lawful order. We have the video. The wife of the victim, who took the video from her phone, insists that her husband was unarmed. But the very video that she is presenting to the world indicates that it's not necessarily true. Now we're told the family's been given access to police video that shows the victim had a gun, which he repeatedly refused to put down. We're also given a photo of a gun lying in the street near the scene, said to be the one the victim had in his hand. Of course, we're left to guess, to speculate as to why he was shot. But on the wife's video, you can hear her suddenly change her tone and change her message from "don't shoot him" to a message that she was giving to her husband. Don't do that. No, don't do that. Just before he was shot by a black police officer. Now, it seems reasonable that he made an effort to exit the car with the gun in his hand. In police parlance, this is referred to as a furtive move. A furtive move is one that's done in stealth, expressive of a hidden motive or purpose, something that's shifty. In these situations, a furtive move will get you shot. Why? Because police are trained to do that. It is police policy. Why? To keep police officers alive and to keep innocent people alive. Now we're being told by CNN's Aaron Burnett that many of these people who are coming to Charlotte to protest the police brutality and racism are not actually from North Carolina. You see, they've rushed in from other states to express their outrage. Outrage at what? Police brutality. What else? We'll talk about that as the show unwinds. We'll talk about the whats and the whys, as well as the social and religious implications. Because they are not from the community, they aren't as likely to care about businesses or reputations of these locals. Those who are protesting because they want to make a better town, a better place for their children. These destructive demonstrators are called agitators, and it's widely believed that Ferguson, Missouri, and Sanford, Florida had many of these same demonstrators when those towns went through an uprising against police brutality and racism. We here in the Charleston, South Carolina area, we didn't have that. We had a white young man walk into a church downtown, sit in that church with these people for an hour during a prayer meeting on a Wednesday night, and when it was over, he got up and he shot everybody in the room. But we didn't have these agitators. We didn't have these demonstrations. We didn't have any of that. Why? Because the leadership here at Mother Emanuel AME Church told the Al Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons to stay away. They didn't want all of that. You see, it isn't necessarily something that just grows up in a community. It's usually imported. The events of this particular situation are looking every day as though it's not the way it's being presented. We have some other issues to discuss. The beauty of America has always been in her culture, a culture rooted in biblical principle, not sectarian, Christian culture, a culture rooted in biblical values. Regardless of where you came from, where you lived, or generally what you believed, Americans have all usually lived the same. Today, that is not true. Today, we have a cultural problem. That problem is rooted in our values. It's rooted in the fact that we don't have any values. We have no corporate American values anymore. Everybody is doing what is right in their own eyes. In Deuteronomy chapter 12 in the Bible, it says, in the days of Moses, when the children of Israel were being led out of bondage and into the promised land, Israel had a problem. The problem Israel had was they had no corporate morality, no corporate values, no corporate goals, no corporate commitments. Moses wrote concerning the law, "These are the statutes and judgments which ye shall observe to do in the land which the Lord thy God, the God of thy fathers, has given thee to possess it all the days that ye live upon the earth." Later, after Joshua was gone, we read their story in the book of Judges, where it says, in those days there was no king in Israel. but every man did that which was right in his own eyes. That sentence recurs throughout the book of Judges to explain why they were struggling so, and why God was raising up men and women to lead them. You see, they were acting the fool. In Proverbs chapter 12, verse 15, we read, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise." In the Bible, there are 4 types of fools. This particular fool is a person who values their own opinion over objective standards. To others, he appears to be foolish, silly, but in reality, he is perverse. He will not bow to wise counsel, since that counsel is contrary to his own. What's the battle in America today? It's not the battle over Islam, or black versus white, or rich versus poor. The battle today is over morality. What really is right and what really is wrong? And are these rights and wrongs rooted in anything other than my own opinion? Now consider those who tell us that Christians are overly committed to the Bible. That's right. These are not pagans. These are not Muslims. These are not people who are outside the church and not happy with anything the church stands for. These are evangelical Christian pastors telling us we are overly committed to the Bible. The Andy Stanleys, the Joel Osteens, the T.D. Jakes of this world. We'll talk about that. What are you watching on television these days? There are new sitcoms making their debut this month of September 2016. One is called The Exorcist. Another is called The Good Place. Another is called simply This Is Us. Each one takes aim at biblical religious ideals, skewering them under the guise of comedy. The Exorcist is a journey into the occult, the demonic, the world of evil spirits. Done under the guise of religion, a Catholic priest is the exorcist. The Good Place is a TV program mocking organized religion, mocking heaven, minimizing hell. A woman is mistakenly taken to the good place. She is paired with a former ethics professor who, upon learning her secret, chooses to work with her efforts to appear worthy of this new station. The show, entitled This Is Us, is the story of a couple of aging people. They're turning 36 years of age. One is an overweight woman determined to lose weight. The other is a sitcom actor who quits his series. Their paths cross and they learn just how connected they are to people who are really total strangers. Religion? Well, it's humanism in this case, no doubt masquerading as Christianity. The moral? It's always good to know we're connected, even if we're unaware that we really are. I'll give you a tip. Don't waste your time. In the case of The Good Place, you would be vexing your soul to consider and then to laugh at this obvious travesty of God. We have some Baptist leaders giving us a report on religious liberty. This new report says there should be peaceful coexistence between religious groups and non-discrimination principles. The report is from the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. It is called Peaceful Coexistence, Reconciling Non-Discrimination Principles with Civil Liberties. It asserts that religious exemptions to the protections of civil rights based upon classifications such as race, color, national origin, sex, disability status, sexual orientation, gender identity, when they are permissible, significantly infringe upon these civil rights. Additionally, it says, quote, overly broad religious exemptions unduly burden non-discrimination laws and policies. Translation: if there are any exceptions made for people and practices which are destructive of those people or the lifestyle they have chosen, those exceptions and protections are immoral and are now unlawful. You see, civil rights trumps everything. It's all about minority rights, not majority rights. Al Mohler, president of Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, says the report is part of a, quote, moral revolution that is taking place right before our eyes. Russell Moore, president of the Southern Baptist Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, speaking to Baptist Press, said the report's language was a logical, moral, and political disaster. He goes on to say, for this administration to argue that religious liberty is merely a euphemism for unlawful discrimination demonstrates how deeply entrenched our federal government is in a culture war mentality against religious dissidents. The Commission on Civil Rights Chairman Martin Castro said in the report that there is a concern about religious persecution. He wrote, our country was founded by those fleeing religious persecution. He went on to say, we must therefore always be vigilant to ensure that religion not be used as a pretext to persecute those whose civil rights and civil liberties would be protected. I would like somebody to define religious persecution. You see, there's a difference between burning somebody at the stake or drowning them or stretching them on a rack simply because you don't understand or agree with their religious values, and seeking to protect a person from destructive practice or keeping the society from moral collapse. You see, this commission, these people are talking about transgenderism, infanticide, drug abuse, and homosexuality, to name only the most dramatic. And since it is largely Christians who stand against these things, then all of the efforts to stop this from happening must be religious persecution. It can't just be a stand against moral and physical abuse. It can't be a stand against the destruction of society. It has to be religious, because we can defeat those religious types. These and some other things are what we're going to be talking about on the Bible Forum this week. I want you to stick around if you're here watching live and walk through it with me. If not, check the YouTube page. You can pick the title you want and look at the issue that you think is important to you now. Stay tuned. There's much, much more.